Welcome back. I mentioned the assembly line of student debt lawsuits. This is insane. This is in today's New York Times. The headline, "Behind the Lucrative Assembly Line of Student Debt Lawsuits" by Stacey Cowley and Jessica Silver Greenberg. And I'll just share the first paragraph with you. It kind of lays the whole thing out. A woman in a suburb of Columbus, Ohio, was sued twice by two different creditors over the same overdue student loan. Another person in Illinois was taken to court over a loan that had already been paid off. And hundreds of borrowers faced lawsuits over debts so old that they were no longer legally collectible. The cases all involved the same debt collector, Trans World Systems. Student loans have soared over the last decade, becoming the largest source of household debt outside of mortgages. And this, Stacey and Jessica Wright, has produced a lucrative business with companies collecting tens of millions of dollars through settlements, wage garnishments, and other compelled payments. Trans World Systems, this company that they're talking about, has filed more than 38,000 lawsuits in just the past year on behalf of just one company, the National Collegiate Student Loan Trusts. The Consumer Financial Protection Bureau, the CFPB, Richard Cordray's organization, the one that Elizabeth Warren helped create, the one that has recovered billions of dollars for you and me from big banks like Wells Fargo. The CFPB, which the Republicans are trying desperately to do away with, accused National Collegiate and Trans World, both the lender and the collection company, in separate complaints of using sloppy and illegal collection methods. And the companies paid $21 million to settle it. And yet here we still are. Private loans like those owed by National Collegiate amount to more than $100 billion. Transworld's high-volume tactics in such cases are common across the industry. Court dockets are choked with faulty cases. Students have been sued for debts they no longer owed, by companies they never borrowed from, and by creditors that lacked the legal standing to sue in the first place. Robin Smith, a lawyer with the National Consumer Law Center, said this is robo-signing all over again. And it absolutely is, and it was robo-signing that brought us the crash of the housing market. This is going to, I'm telling you, when people start walking away from student loans and saying, sue me, I don't care. I'm going to become judgment-proof. I'm going to become poverty-stricken because you know, $100,000 or $30,000 or whatever it may be, so it's impossible to pay off in a lifetime. And because of the legislation that was passed back in 2005 during the Bush administration, championed by the Republicans, although it was co-authored by Joe Biden, it is illegal for a student loan to be discharged through bankruptcy, which is just bizarre beyond rationality. Anyhow, Wynn in Solon, Maine. Hey, Wynn, what's up?
Well, thank you, Tom, for all you do. You're a good collector of my frustrations. And so,
thank you, Wynn.
In any case, I first have a comment to make about this Medicare, Medicaid, and then a question to ask you about a topic you hit on earlier in the beginning of your broadcast. My comment is there appears to be a tiered system in terms of medical care. When I'm retired, I get Social Security, I have Medicare, Medicaid, and when I get referred to a doctor, I get a physician's assistant. I am told I'm going to see the doctor, but I always get a physician's assistant, and I can never see a doctor.
It's not just because you're on Medicare. That's happening to everybody.
Yeah.
And by the way, as the father of a kid who's in physician assistant school right now, I can tell you that's a pretty rigorous school. I mean, she's really working. PAs and nurse practitioners also, in many cases, are as well qualified or as knowledgeable anyway as physicians are these days. I mean, there's been a major change in the industry in the last 2 decades.
Well, I feel that can be true, but when it's represented, I get to see a doctor, and then they don't do that. You know,
but a PA can prescribe. They can do minor surgery. They can do. I mean, they're pretty much kind of doctors, almost doctors, but yeah.
But in any case, my question to you is: here you've got these Republicans pushing through this legislation and attaching. Well, we're going to increase Social Security taxes. Is there anything chained to that or attached to that where, if they're chaining that to the CPI and saying we're going to be raising the rates for Social Security and tax all you working people, are they at the same time going to increase my monthly check
No.
by that amount?
No, of course not. Are you kidding?
That's what I figured. So there's nothing chained to that legislation that's going to do that as well. In other words, we'll take more money from you, but we won't give you any more.
Right. The chain CPI they want to apply to tax brackets so that, see, say you've got 3% inflation and you got a 3% pay raise. Then if the tax brackets are indexed to the actual rate of inflation, then your tax bracket should go up by 3% too, so your taxes don't go up when you get a pay raise that simply keeps you equal in terms of purchasing power. You with me so far?
I am.
Okay. Now, what the Republicans are proposing is with the chained CPI to say, okay, we had 3% inflation, which means the cost of chicken went up by 3%. So we're assuming that you're going to chain your behavior to that new price, and you're going to eat chicken 20% less frequently, and instead you're going to eat even something even cheaper, you know, a bad grade of ground hamburger or something. Frankly, I don't know what meats are cheap or not cheap because I don't eat meat, but you know what I'm saying.
Yeah.
So then they say, so therefore we get a 3% increase in your pay, but we're only going to move the tax brackets up by 2%. Because we're assuming, in other words, we're going to raise the tax brackets more slowly, because we're assuming that you're going to change your behavior or whatever. I mean, there's not even a good rationalization for it on the tax side. They can, you know, at least Obama rationalized this on the Social Security side by saying people will change their behavior so we can reduce the rate at which we're raising their benefits. But this is the exact opposite of this. This is like we stepping through a mirror. And this is the Republicans saying, no, what's going to happen is every year, even if your income stays exactly the same, inflation adjusted. In other words, every year you're getting a slight increase for inflation, but you're not getting a single penny more in purchasing power. Every year you're dropping yourself into, or getting closer to dropping yourself into, a higher tax bracket, and thus the government taking more of your money. You know, and of course that would not apply to the billionaires because they're already in the highest tax bracket. So it's going to apply to all the rest of us. And that's what they're up to, and that's what they're talking about. Wayne, I got to move along, but thanks for the call. Christine in Fenton, Michigan. Hey, Christine, what's up?
Well, I just wanted to call real quick on your talk about health care. And I tried to call the other day. It was busy. On Medicaid and Medicare, I've worked in the healthcare field a long time. And I've known people that worked in the billing area. I personally wouldn't do that. And they love Medicaid and Medicare because they pay their bills immediately.
Yep.
If there's any questions about the legitimacy or any questions about, you know, the billing in general, they check into it, they take care of it further on, but they pay their bills immediately. Private insurance can come up with more reasons not to pay a bill than probably your average hustler out on the street.
Oh, 3-4 months ago, I got a bill from surgery that I had a year and a half ago that the private insurance company, you know, hadn't paid, and it's like they're not even in my insurance company anymore. I mean, it's nuts. Yeah, I'm with you, Christine.
It is, but I think that people should be very aware of that because the healthcare industry loves Medicaid and Medicare.
Right. Yeah.
Because that means they've got money coming in.
You got it. Christine, thank you for the call, and thanks for listening to Sirius XM. Charles in Lafayette, Louisiana. Hey, Charles, what's on your mind?
Hi, Tom. It's a matter of which problem do you talk about first.
Yeah.
I see a chance for members of Congress to show what they're made of in response to these threats by the big donors.
Mm-hmm.
And what I would like to have them say with one voice is, we don't want your money.
Mm-hmm.
We came to Washington to talk to each other, not to take orders from big money. Therefore, we are introducing a bill co-sponsored by 535 members that turns elections and campaign financing back to the people and outlaws big money. With these threats from business, this is a great opportunity to stand up to business or big money, and I hope they do it.
Yeah. Who's the they that you're hoping does this, Charles?
Congress.
Congress, generically. Yes. That's the tragedy is that, you know, when the Supreme Court ruled in the Buckley case in 1976, I guess it was, that billionaires and corporations owning politicians was considered free speech and protected by the First Amendment of the Constitution, everything changed. And what we've seen is that since then, politicians and billionaires have figured out ways to get even closer in bed with each other, to make their relationship tighter and tighter and tighter. And through legislation, through changes in the tax code, and through changes in the laws that have to do with how elections are run. To the point now where you've got legislators who are traveling around the world on private jets, on the nickel of the corporations or the billionaires. They come to conferences that are sponsored. You've got ALEC and all these other groups that are constantly holding these events at high-end resorts. And the lawmakers get spiffed and comped and free meals and everything but the hookers.
I can think back to a time where you were able to check a box on your tax returns to send, I don't know how much it was, $1?
$3, yeah. Right. Well, I think that box is still there, Charles. I think it might be up to $5 or $10 now. But yeah, if we simply made it mandatory or even just, hey, you're going to pay $10 when you pay your taxes, into a federal fund, I think a lot could be done. We were trying that in the 70s after the Nixon crimes, and since Reagan, we've been doing very, very little. Charles, thanks for the call.
You're listening to Thom Hartmann. Visit thomhartmann.com for audio and video archives.
Back with more of your calls.